So we're in Psalm 127 today, and just to remind you, when we started the Psalms of Ascent in Psalm 120, I pointed out that there is an organization to the Psalms, and all the Psalms point to Psalm 127, all the ones before it, and all the ones after it amplify Psalm 127. So together, Psalm 127 is really the highlight and the main message of this group of Psalms. And that main message is to rely on God in all aspects of life. When we talk about rely on God, we use some synonyms for that: faith, trust, reliance. These things all mean that we build on the Lord, that He is at the center of everything we do, that we trust Him, and that we don't shake in that trust, but rather keep coming back to it and back to it and back to it. And that's what we see here in Psalm 127. Let me switch views here so you can see that psalm. It's how God has got to be the center of our work and our family and all of our protection. He's got to be the center of that. And if He's not the center of it, everything we do is in vain. We feel it in our soul, and we'll reap vanity at the end of our lives unless the Lord's at the center of it. Look how the psalm begins: unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain to build it. And then it goes on as talks about foundational faith, and then goes on: it is vain for you to rise early, to retire late, to eat the bread of painful labors, for He gives His beloved even in his sleep. So it's talking about your work life here. Verses 3 to 5 talk about your family life. So it's the Lord has to be at the center of both of those things. Let's reflect on verse 2. Sometimes I recall as an employee in a pretty stressful job most of the time, I would sometimes be wondering, what's the point of all of this? I mean, I understand the need to pay the mortgage, to raise the kids, to feed them. But when I said, what's the point? I was thinking about what is the eternal relevance of what I'm doing. I'm spending hours and hours, like many of you, more than 8 hours a day in my occupation. And it made me wonder, where was this all going? Does it mean anything at all? Once I die and turn to dust, is it all just for nothing? And I was always faithfully reminded, mostly through the book of Ecclesiastes, that I really need to focus on the Lord. I need to give that over to Him. I need to do what the Lord has given me to do, and do it with diligence and trust Him for the outcome. And I think verse 2 here is reminding us that if we're the workaholic type, which I tend to be sometimes, it's all vanity. Rise early, retire late, eat the bread of painful labors. He's talking about reaping the fruits of those painful labors. It's vain. It's vain. It's about me, I guess, is what you could say. It's about my hard work, my painful labors, not about the Lord. And it's all vanity. It's not calling us to be lazy. He says He gives to His beloved even in His sleep. Not calling us to be lazy at all, but rather calling us to put things in order, that God is powerful, that God is gracious, that God will take care of His people. Even when we're asleep, He's going to give to His beloved, give us satisfaction, give us security, give us rest, give us satisfaction. And we need to do that. That's what that verse is saying. How do we apply this to ourselves today? Well, I think one of the things to do is to recognize that, number one, whatever calling of life you're in, wherever you're at in your life, perhaps you're working at a meaningless job, or a job you think is meaningless. Perhaps you're in a very high stress occupation. Perhaps you're in a highly respected or a highly despised occupation. Recognize that as long as it's moral, okay, that the Lord has given you that to put your hand to. That is from Him. He's allocated to you a certain task and certain job to do, and you need to own that, and you need to turn that over to the Lord, and to recognize that He is calling you to be diligent in the work He's given you to do, and to be diligent, but not to be, as I said, a workaholic. Not to think that everything depends on you, that everything is because of your labor, but look at that as a gift from God. The job you have and the money you make from it are gifts from Him, taking care of you. Perhaps you're retired. How are you using your time? Are you rising up early and staying up late to pursue your golf game, to be fit, to watch TV, to spend your time staring at Fox News or reading the Drudge Report every day and talking to your friends for hours and hours about politics? Is that what the Lord has called you to do? Or has He called you to use your retirement years to mentor others, to teach others? Whatever that is, know that it's the Lord who's at work in you. It's the Lord that's giving you the ability to earn, and it's the Lord that's giving you the fruits of that labor. How do we apply this ourselves? Where I'd say be thankful, number one, that you have meaningful work to do, meaningful work to support your family, meaningful work to support your pursuit of the Lord, to give you the leisure time that you need to spend time in His Word and time in prayer and time with God's people. I'd also evaluate what you are doing with your time. Is it God pleasing? Are you using that time in a way that honors and pleases Him? Perhaps you need to make some adjustments there. Perhaps that you need to make some redirection in how you're using your time. And then how do we respond to this today? Well, I'd say acknowledge the Lord. Acknowledge Him in giving you meaningful work. Acknowledge Him in giving you work that pays a wage. Acknowledge Him in His provision for your family through you and through His grace to provide work for you. And then also thank Him for keeping the work in balance, for interrupting you perhaps with Psalm 127 to remind you that even as you sleep, the Lord is blessing you, and to thank Him for that, honor Him for that, glorify Him for that.